Hello guys, hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another London session market analysis video. So as always, we're going to be looking at GJ. We're going to also take a look at gold. Just quickly look at GU. It's looking like it's been in the past few days. Won't spend too much time on it. And we'll also take a look at NAS. So let's start with, as per usual, let's start with GJ. Top down analysis. Alright, so starting the weekly. So as we can see, as I mentioned over the past few days, what we can see is the previous weekly candle is a very strong bullish candle. We have yet to break the high of the previous weekly candle. We've spent the first few days creating a lower wick. We have formed support on the minor time frames at a previous level of resistance here to the left, which lines up with a previous support. Pretty sure it's on the flyer. And what we have done is now we're starting to flip back bullish. So I'm going to mark in now the previous weekly candle's high. And once we go down to the lower time frames, once we go down to time frames, daily, 4 hour and M30, we'll see what we've got to the left hand side of that level there. So a strong bullish on the weekly. As far as the candle goes, looking at the daily, the structure itself is still technically bearish, and that won't change at all until we actually close above the highest point at this stage. So we're far off it, but what we can do if we are to look for confluence to take trades against the structure on the daily time frame, we are to look for counter probabilities. And what we have got on the daily time frame is we've got a long wick to the downside, that previous bearish candle, which did close weak bearish closer to its high than its low. The current candle created a low wick, and it's since broken out of the previous daily candle, approaching the resistance, the high of the resistance. Just to the left of that, we've got some clean traffic. So we know that if we start to pop above that 184.30 sort of level, would be some really nice buy options at that point there. So yeah, technically bearish, but with this at this stage, we've got high, low, high, high on the actual candle. So we've got counter probabilities to the upside a lot, along with the weekly candle. Looking at the 4 hour structure, we can see that is still technically bearish, guys. Reason being, this is the lowest point the market got to of the downtrend. We are to look to the left hand side of that. We're looking to determine where was the last 2 more consecutive candle pull back in the opposite direction. Obviously got it just here, so anything in between, technically we will remain bearish. However, what we do have is, once again, counter probabilities on a side in the higher time frame. We're also approaching a resistance, and if we pop above that resistance, we got some very clean traffic to the left hand side. So for that reason, I'm just going to mark in our first level of resistance on the 4 hour. So we are bearish, but once again, we can gather confluence is still to look for potential buys, albeit against the structure on the 4 hour time frame and the daily time frame. Just going to mark in the support below that level there. Looks like we've got some very clean candles to the left hand side on the 4 hour, so it's likely going to be some nice areas to get involved in a potential sell. Now, as far as the level we're at a very strong level on the 4 hour time frame, and we can see we've tapped in multiple times over here to the left hand side. Therefore, we could we find some sells from these highs? Let's see what the 30-minute says. So we're technically bearish in structure in the 4 hour, but really trending to the upside, consolidating near resistance at the moment. Looking at the 30-minute structure, and this to me has flipped bullish. So that's the lowest point the market got to. It's a pullback. Pullback's just here, sorry. So yep, so we are technically bullish, and we will remain bullish on the M30. I'll just mark in the support really until we start to close below this point here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this zone to incorporate the low of the bullish candle, lowest bullish candle at this level of support, most recent swing point, and I'll join that to the open of that bullish candle just to create a bit of a zone. So now I've distinguished some pretty decent levels to get involved in trades. We know the bias is technically neutral, 2 time frames to the upside, 2 time frames to the downside. Whilst the M30 structure is bullish, and whilst we're just in an area consolidation, what I would prefer to be doing right now on GJ is simply waiting for price to pull back, retest the last significant high low in the M30 time frame, see if it does form a support above it, respect it to head back up and retest the current daily candles high. And if we do have the volume and the momentum, begin to pop above that previous weekly candles high, and at that point there is high probability we will continue to the upside. We've got some clean traffic above that level. Gonna really add that in, buys above, move this back down. So obviously we've got some clean traffic above that point there, buys back at support. If you do get the right catalyst within price action, you guys know exactly what to look for at that level, such as bullish engulfing candles like that. Look for minor resistance form. Price begins to pop above the minor resistance, close above it. That could be a signal to take it back up. The area it's currently at, not too keen on anything, to be honest. It's just consolidating. I would not be all that interested. Further options would be to sell it if price starts to close below at 183.40. That back in, reject, flip the M30 structured bearish, and I see it's potentially coming all the way back down towards that 183 flat sort of region. So it sells below the support would make perfect sense for me. So I'm just going to add that just now. Sells below. So that is GJ, guys. So hopefully that makes sense. The only other option for me would be if we do pop up, reject yet again, seeing we are at a 4-hour resistance, a high time frame resistance. Do reject, just look for your calcium price action from these highs, potentially sell it back down. But I'd like for it to not to happen in the middle of the current range that we're in. I want it to actually pull back up, reject, possibly around the London Open if it does pop up, only to reject to pop back into the range below. That could be a catalyst to suggest maybe there could be some sell options from higher up. So that is GJ. And now let's move on to gold, guys. I don't want to ramble on all that long. Did a little chart markup before, had a session earlier. All right, so on gold, let me just refresh. It's breaking into a pretty nice area just now. Weekly, strong bearish. We're hovering below the previous weekly candle just now. Lower high, lower low. Strong bearish candle. Still tapping into this previous resistance to the left. So interesting to see if we do begin to pop a lot. The daily structure is technically still bullish. But what we do have, what I mentioned earlier on a call today, was previous daily candle closed back week bullish. That to me suggests it's likely grab liquidity from the upside, leaving a long wick to the upside, only to close closer to its low. Then what that's likely grab liquidity. So the new candle essentially is just, you would open up, create a bit of an upper wick, and as it begins to break the low of that previous daily candle, the minor support formed, it will likely head back down. The level I would consider would be around this 2020 level, previous support over here to the left hand side. That wick is a bearish candle wick, so on the daily time frame I'm more concerned about, or on any time frame, more concerned about the support formed, which is this bullish candle over here. So that is where I could potentially see price coming back down towards that 2019 level. The candle probabilities on to the downside on daily against the structure itself. We've got the weekly candle forming strong bearish. The 4-hour structure is bearish as well. And we have candle probabilities to the downside. New 4-hour candles open up. Previous candle was a strong bearish engulfing candle. Current candle lower high, lower low. Into some pretty clean traffic to the left. Quickly going to mark in resistance. And I'm also quickly going to mark in support. All right, I'm going to mark in the previous level just here, just to see what's happened if we are obviously on the minor time frames. If we have pulled back, how we have rejected that point, or how prices reacted to that point. See if we've got sort of structure formed. Look for any potential options if we do pull back yet again. Now I'll just drag this down a little bit further. And all right, this is really nice to see on gold right now. So the 30-minute is technically bearish, so therefore we have a bias of 3v1 to the downside as well. 3 time frames to the downside. Only time frame it's bullish is the daily. And what we do have on the daily is that week closure. We've now since created lower high, lower low. So to me, it's suggesting potential sell options. Now, seeing it's popped into a nice clean area below, what I'd probably like to see now on gold is either one or two things. Let it create the move down. Wherever it pulls up, it may even pop back down to this support here. Pull back up. Look for a price to eventually pull back, grab more liquidity, and look to sell it back down. That is option 1. Now, option 2 is if we just consolidate, pop about below this previous support and come London Open, we begin to break below the support, and we'll likely grab liquidity from that previous zone. And then I'd look to sell it from back at around this 2026 sort of level. Between that level and the current level that we're at, that could be an option. So really, sells below the lowest point just here. We remain below it. You're going to be looking for sell options. It's just a matter of waiting for the right confirmation, whether it be upon a pullback after it makes its move down. What we've done just here, we've formed a 15-minute support. So if this candle closed bearish engulfing, most of you won't be on the charts at this point. That could be an option to sell it back down. Nice clean traffic to the left, obviously, so that adds confluence. Now, further options on gold will be if price does pop back into this range above, I wouldn't necessarily be buying it just now. I'd rather let it pop down to these lows to buy it. So if it comes back down to here, we start to form a bit of structure at these lows, a low, high, a high, high, low, high, high, that type of scenario, then I'd look to potentially buy. It may be best to wait for added confluence such as a 4-hour counter closing back bullish. I mean, you might miss the first move though. So aside from waiting for a 4-hour counter close back bullish, wait for a bit of structure to form back at these lows. So again, simple, buy low, sell high. So I'd be considering buying it. If it does pop back down, doesn't mean I just buy it as it taps in. I want to see a little bit more than that. Further sell options, if it does pop back above, retest this point just here, 2032. It's technically going to flip bullish before that, but I'd still consider this to be the major level that price needs to respect to be able to continue down. If it rejects it, or if it doesn't respect it and begins to pop above it, that's the only other place at this stage I would consider further buy options. I just don't really want to buy it. The momentum is to the downside, so buys above that point, otherwise sells below upon a pullback. There we go. And another level we could potentially put back to is this level just here, because that is the last significant lower high in the M30 time frame. So even sells below that point there would also make sense to me if we do pull back to that level to retest it. Just looking to the left, we're creating an impulse to the downside. So when I see we create an impulse to the downside or upside, I'm always looking back to the left to see where price could potentially pull back to before it forms another resistance in this case, or support if it was to the upside, before it heads back in line with the prevailing trend. That is gold. Now GU, what is it doing? Well, I can just simply shift this across. Nothing has really changed. It still doesn't look clean, to be honest. Very, very choppy price action, especially to the upside. But let me look at it. All right, M30. So it's at a very strong support. I would still be looking for support to form a buy back up at this stage. Wouldn't be selling it just here. We're technically still bullish, no, bearish, bullish. This is a real tough one, GU. It's awkward. It is technically bullish as long as it remains above this point here. The buys will make sense. So now I'm asking myself, all right, within this move to the downside, where have we formed some minor resistance? Because they could provide some potential entry points. If price does pull back and reject resistance, start to pop above it, then what's likely to happen is we're likely to continue to the upside. However, if we pull back only to respect it, then we're likely going to head back down, and we could just be creating another equal high or lower high to continue with the way the price action is currently trending to the downside. So for me, potential entry points probably at this stage, yeah, I would prefer to buy it just because the level we're at, even though it is trending to the downside. So I'd rather wait for closures above either 1.2706 or closures above 1.269, 1.2690, pretty much, or anywhere within these gray zones, as long as we begin to form a bit of structure. That's what I want to see, somewhere like that. Just quick analysis in G, because I'm not going to bother spending much time on it because it doesn't look good at all. Been very, very choppy. Now, finally, last but not least, let's look at NAS, and let's just clean this chart up and do it again. Starting from scratch, it's been a pretty strong uptrend throughout the week. Looking at the weekly candle itself, I would probably consider this to be a strong bullish candle just now. We have pulled back quite significantly into that strong bearish candle on the previous weekly candle. We do have a high low. Obviously, I haven't broken the high of the previous. When I look at a candle and I see this on the weekly, what that suggests to me that there's a good chance, a high probability, that any pullback on the minor time frames could be met by a support. Once we go down the time frames, we'll determine where we've got levels of support before we head back up and potentially create a higher high. So pull back to those levels of support to grab some more liquidity before we head back up. Strong bullish in the weekly. Daily structure is technically bullish. Previous daily candle closed a long way to the downside, closing closer to its high than its low. That suggests to me, again, we've grabbed some more liquidity, could begin to head back up if we pop above that previous daily candle's high. So I'll be just marking that in for the time being. Onto the 4-hour structure. That is still technically bearish. Once again, it's not going to flip anytime soon. But what we are doing now is creating some higher lows, higher highs within the micro trend. So we can use that as confluence against the actual structure itself. I'm pretty sure it's the only time frame is technically bearish. So let's just let's have a look once we go down to the M30. All right, so yep, so it's a bearish candles wick, so I'm going to leave that zone in as is. Bit of downside, going to drag it down a little bit. All right, so the M30 structural flip below this point here. Perfect. So I'm not keen on selling it because it's just consolidating, guys. I'd rather miss this first move and just be patient with it. The bias is bullish. It's been in a big uptrend. The current weekly is forming a strong bullish candle. So again, what I mentioned earlier, when I see this, I go down the time frame, to ask myself, where can we potentially pull back to in order to form a support before we head back up and continue with the prevailing weekly trend, which is to the upside. So obviously a pull back towards this level here, 16,550 roughly. We get our catalyst at this level here, either a bit of structure to form or the strong bullish engulfing candles, liquidity candles, that type of thing. I would definitely be considering looking to buy it from anywhere really within this gray zone or above it, preferably above it. As long as we form that structure within it and start to pop back above it, then I think buy options will look really nice. Now, quite simple further buy options upon continuation above the high. Why not? Makes perfect sense. Being in a strong uptrend, friend is your friend until the end. There's nothing yet to suggest that we're not going to continue to the upside. Clean traffic to the left above these highs as well. It's a definitely realistic price level that price could come up, actually tap into, sorry, my words, is the 16,846. Again, doesn't mean that it's going to do it all today, but we have been trending throughout the week. Same type of things happen, a bit of an impulse, a bit of a pullback, an impulse. Could we be doing the same thing today? Potentially. So pretty simple on as buys above or buys above at the support. The sells would make more sense once we flip the structure in M30. Clean traffic to the left of that point there. Definitely at that point there we would have been pulling back into that previous daily candle, breaking a low of it, so we should not need to do so. Be able to look at that candle closing long wick to the downside, suggesting it's grab liquidity from the downside, closing closer to its high and its low. There is no need for us to pull back all that far into that previous daily candle, let alone break the low of it if we are to continue bullish. So if we do so and break the support, flip the M30 structure bearish, and I see us looking to potentially come down further. Now, the only other way I trade this range, sell it from the highs, is if we make a decent move down, maybe create a low, pull back, create an equal high, start to consolidate, similar to what we've done here, but we're likely going to have a lot more volume starting to come in, close to MY obviously. If we start to pop below the support, or we get our catalyst bearish engulfing candle, that type of thing, liquidity candle at this level, if once we've made that low, pull back, if we get that catalyst back at this level yet again, that is the only time I consider selling it from current sort of area where we're at. So at that point there, I would consider the sales. Other than that, just be patient with it. Either buys above the highs upon continuation or buys at support. So that is pretty much a wrap, guys. I hope you enjoyed that analysis video for London. I'll be back a little bit later on for an MY update video. Trade safe. Send me questions if you have any, and I shall catch you once again shortly. Cheers and bye for now, my friends.